Welcome back to Ladies Who Create, a show where we'll be interviewing the incredibly inspiring women who are trailblazing the design and creative industries. And I'm Liz Meyer, art director in tech and co-founder at Dataland.
And I'm your other co-host, Jess Rosenberg, and I'm a creative director currently working in the tech industry.
Today's episode is with someone we've admired for a long time, Diana Mounter, head of design at GitHub. From humble beginnings at a print studio apprenticeship to leading design at one of the most technically respected platforms in the world, Diana shares the very real, very human path that got her here. In this conversation, we talk about the winding road into leadership, how she balances deep work with deep structure, and why cultivating culture is just as critical as designing systems. Plus, we get into the importance of community, what it's actually like to pitch ideas to executives, and why making space for creativity at all levels matters so much. This one is packed with wisdom, and if you've ever wondered what design leadership looks like behind the scenes, or how to step into bigger shoes yourself, you're gonna love it. Let's get into it.
Well, hi, Diana. Welcome to Ladies Who Create. We're so happy to have you here.
I'm very happy to be here. So what drew you to design, and how did that passion evolve? Was there any like major moments in your life that led you here?
Yeah, so I was always fairly creative when I was a kid, and I liked painting and sketching and stuff, and also music as well. As you can sort of tell, there's some musical instruments behind me. And at one point, when you're getting a little bit older and choosing which subjects to study at college and things like that, I think my mum politely framed it that I don't know that you can do art as a job. Well, like if you do, that's going to be a pretty hard path. And while I was artistic, I don't think it would have taken a really big passion and focus to like make that a career. And I really admire people who do that. But I still was interested in that creative side. And then as I was a teenager, computers and the web started to become a thing, and that started to pique my interest. And I fortunately landed myself what was called an apprenticeship at a design and print studio, and did vocational studies while I was there. And that opened the doors to working in graphic design. And we also had a website, and the print center had a website. And so one of the designers that was the sort of do everything person in the studio taught me a bit about the web, and so that's what sort of started to open the doors there. So I was kind of very lucky that this opportunity came up. I didn't know that graphic design was really a job that I could do, and was very fortunate to just sort of land on my feet there, and I've been in that realm of design ever since, really.
That's awesome. So there's design, and there's, of course, leadership. And when we think about design leadership specifically, for you, were there any standout projects, challenges, or decisions that you look back on today as pivotal moments in your journey to leadership?
So one of my former boss actually said, I don't think you can not lead. I think that, I don't know if that's a good thing all the time, but I think I just sort of, if I see a problem and I have an idea about how to fix it, and, really a large amount of working in digital design is, solving a problem, or even in more creative marketing projects, right? You have a goal and you're trying to solve how to get there. And so I think that I just sort of see that path, and I want to drive to do the best that we can. And so in quite a few roles before I officially stepped into manager, I would often fall into design lead roles or project leads. And eventually that ended up being an official management role. But I did also take my time before I took that opportunity. There was a couple of times where I could have stepped into that, but I really enjoy the hands-on work too. And So I'm glad that I spent quite a number of years being an individual contributor before taking on the official management role. And although I did some management in a couple of different companies, I didn't really officially fall into that until GitHub. And that was through leading our design systems work. I was really passionate about that and saw lots of familiar problems that I had seen at Etsy and felt like I knew how to fix them. And I was sort of leading the team anyway. And so then when they started to grow the team, they were like, "This is silly. You should just be managing the team as well." And I I think they did actually frame it like that. And I was like, "Yeah, that makes sense. I'm also, helping hire these people," and I felt ready to take that step. So
That's a really good streamlined way of having that happen. So it's a super technical company. It's like engineering first, GitHub, versus like an Etsy. I would feel like it's craft first more. I mean, I'm not sure if that's exactly how it works, but as a designer, as a creative, how do you like sell your creative ideas to more technical partners?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Etsy and GitHub are quite different, but I think Etsy was formed like 2 years before GitHub. So they weren't too far apart in terms of maturity and growth stage. So I did find it did feel like a little bit like deja vu coming from Etsy after 2 years to GitHub. And they had a very strong engineering team in different ways to GitHub, right? So Etsy is an e-commerce tool, so they would do a lot of A/B testing and had a really great data team to really understand those like kind of conversion funnels. They also, fortunately for me, were a company that embraced designers shipping code and would encourage that and taught, on your first week, or maybe it was even the first few days, you learned how to deploy. They had this tool called the Deployinator, which made it sound more exciting. And that was really a fantastic experience for me, because I'd always been a little bit hybrid and been in roles where I'd had managers or CEOs that were like, "Why are you touching code instead of design?" And I'm like, "Because it's faster for me to ship this change myself." I don't know.
That's cool.
So that was a tangent. But looking at, the ways that GitHub is, of course, it's a developer tool, right? So there's a very heavy engineering influence, and I think it can be a little bit daunting, perhaps, or intimidating to be a designer here, because all of your colleagues are kind of like also the users of the product, right? I think that does mean that we tend to attract designers that do use GitHub and are a bit hybrid and like coding because they're excited to work on a product that they use themselves. That certainly was the case for me. I loved that Etsy existed, but I didn't use it day in, day out, whereas like I was using GitHub pretty much every day. I taught designers at Etsy our Git workflow and how to deploy and stuff once I had been there for a bit.
Cool.
And so it felt really exciting to work on a product that I also used. And so I think really GitHub has always prioritized the developer experience, and that therefore means the user experience. So they do value that designers can see things from a different perspective. And I think it also does help when we have designers that know something of that experience themselves. It does help build that trust. It certainly helped when I was first at GitHub, which was 9 years ago now, that I could help engineers fix their CSS in PRs and ship changes that made working on the front end easier, because as we were building out that design system. So it helped a lot to sort of build up that respect. And I think also like it does help when there's leadership alignment on on the priority of the user experience. Like our CEO, for example, Thomas Domke, he comes from a developer background. He would describe himself as a developer, but he will immediately notice like things that are off a couple of pixels, or he'll click. So he uses the product all the time, which I think is also really important, is that leadership are using, they're actually using GitHub. And that helps us like see those problems. So he will spot like problems in the user experience too. And you don't really want a UX bug to get to your CEO, right? No one wants that, whether you're in design, engineering, or a product or another role. You want to catch that first. So I think there is this general incentive and understanding that that's a big priority. At the same time, I wouldn't say that we haven't struggled with that. The product has grown and we've gone through different phases of growth. And so we've gone through periods where we have been shipping a lot and those cracks start to show. And we haven't been able to keep, I think, things go in ebbs and flows, and sometimes you realize stuff is really breaking before you're able to sort of take stock and like catch up. And I think that's definitely been something that we're now seeing another step that we need to make as design to sort of catch up and sort of really weed out those gaps in the experience. Like many companies, we can be guilty of shipping our org chart, and my philosophy is that you will ship it whether you like it or not. So change your org chart, or more importantly, change the way you work, because most websites don't have CEO and like chief product officer, right? But it's more like the way the teams are formed and shaped and like how you work. And so that's something that we continually iterate on at GitHub. And so I think that's the way that we keep design up there alongside the importance and value of product and engineering, is that we take stock and try and fix things when they're not working.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I use GitHub every day,
that's awesome.
but for a different reason. For project, the new project feature.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we can turn this into a feedback session.
Yeah, no, I won't go there. It just helps me because I have a hard time organizing things. So it's great. It's great to know that it's built with the designer in mind. It's very helpful.
I'm actually curious, how are your teams structured today? The design team?
So the design org is, so all of design report into me. It's not always been the case. We've had every different org chart under the sun, but for probably 4 or 5 years now, design has been one team. And so we have a customer research team. We have 2 what I would call the product design teams, and they're sort of split into some of our like growth and cross sort of surface like features and enterprise and things like that. And then we have another team that's focused around Copilot and our core product areas like pull requests, issues, projects, that type of thing. Those are massive surface areas, so having that under just one person would be quite a lot. And then we have, I just recently moved the design infrastructure team to be part of our brand and marketing team, which is where design systems happen. Because I feel like those teams being the same team really is really important, because I think that brand and design systems are most successful when they're really leading the product, not just sort of like vacuuming up the pieces like behind product.
For a good term to use.
Yeah, I see fully you both agree. Nodding there, so seems like
fully agree.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the shape of our team. We have like a couple of like slide designers that float around the teams, but generally the whole team is really organized by it's really by function and sort of looking at who they're working with. It's not a one-to-one mapping with how engineering and product is structured. That just ends up being like a thing that we can never win on, and it doesn't make sense. Like, we want designers to work across, they usually tend to work across broader areas, which we think is good because we want those sort of holistic sort of views of the experience. But we also want them to be able to go like we also want them to have some boundaries and be able to go a little deep.
I know you're a design leader at GitHub, but when you're starting to come up with ideas and have these really exciting initiatives that are coming up, how do you pitch those to the executives? Like, is there like a process that you have to go through to get buy-in from the rest of the company to put money towards that? Is it I don't know. Yeah, I'm very interested in this part of it.
Yeah, that's a more difficult question to answer than you might think, because I think it's been I wouldn't say a really strict process, and I think it's sometimes it's organic, sometimes it's one of the leadership tapping someone on the shoulder and saying, hey, I think we need to get some like explorations around this idea. And then sometimes, the idea is coming from design or another team. And I think the way that those tend to surface is really just through building relationships. And I think that there are certain types of designers. If I just focus on design versus like the other disciplines, I think you get archetypes in design like you do any discipline, where some people are just stronger at storytelling and shaping and being able to turn an idea into a vision that others can then begin to see. And I don't think or expect all our designers to be able to do that sort of level of work. I think some grow into it, and then some, they're just great on the execution and taking an idea into a really great solution, and that's okay. So that's a long way of saying, like, I think the best thing that we can do to surface ideas to leadership is to uncover who are the designers that are really capable of that, and look for those opportunities, or make sure that they feel they have the permission to just go and explore that. Right now, I would say some of our like stronger like staff and principal level designers they'll just put something together. They have an idea and they can't help but like put it together. But there's probably some people that are growing into that range that we need to make sure that we uncover and we realize that that's a capability that they have, and sort of nurture it and make sure that it gets seen. I was just at an offsite last week, funnily enough, where this was a conversation that we had, and we've actually talked about some of the process, like operational things we could do to broadcast that sort of, we want more of this to the org. And so we're looking at creating like a demos channel where anyone can post like an idea or something shipping. We use GitHub for like almost everything, and so like creating a repo where we can post ideas, vote them up, take them to the next stage. That's actually how, I don't know if you've heard of our GitHub Next team, but they are like our sort of R&D team, and they do some of the really high risk projects that are more difficult for the core like engineering product design teams to do. They launched something called Spark at Universe this year, which is a really cool sort of like development playground for people that maybe don't know how to code so much, and it's like natural language sort of first like interaction. And they also, that's where Copilot, our AI code assistant, came from. And but that team initially started off as part of the office of the CEO, and them sort of having a place to pitch ideas and then sort of voting them up, and then they formed like a team around that. But we still want that innovation and idea sharing within our engineering and product design teams. And so that's what we're like, oh, we know some of this is happening organically, but we need to maybe, not miss some of the great ideas that are out there, or some of the people that are growing the talents to do that type of thing. And so how can we enable more of that? That's what we're doing right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of maybe like senior designers probably have a lot of amazing ideas, but they don't know the steps involved in getting that idea down on paper, or prototyping it, or what level of fidelity to do, and who to give it to review it. That's great to give people an outlet to just show off. What's your idea?
It makes it more acceptable and open too, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I think it's important to celebrate the behavior you want to see more of, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the other thing that we can do is celebrate that type of sharing of work and ideation when it happens. So
yeah. I love that.
Definitely. As a former super introvert, I really appreciate that.
You're not an introvert anymore?
I don't think so. No. No.
Exciting news.
Only here, I'm not an introvert.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a former introvert, or an introvert that's trained myself to be more seemingly extrovert.
Yeah, that's it.
Very similar. Yeah. I think that I use the term ambivert. It's like a sliding scale. But like the extroversion side of the scale is definitely like forced at times. Like I have to really get myself there, whereas my introverted self is very easy. I'm like, I'll lay on the couch. That's not hard.
Oh yeah. Well, that's There's also brain rot included in that.
But like, way other end of the introverted.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start using ambivert. I like that.
Yeah, good.
That works.
Well, I love asking this question because I always find it very fascinating how people spend their time in general. But I'd love to hear about what does your typical day look like as a design leader? Kind of like, how do you get started? How do you move through your day? What takes up most of your time?
So definitely do have more meetings being in a leadership role at this point. I think there's a sort of bit of a battle with creating space for deep work and thinking time, and being present and visible in the meetings that you do need. So it does take some level of discipline. I think more over the course of a week than a day. I think that I have rhythm and flow over the course of the week versus where it's easier to talk to, I think, in that sort of length. Because, each day might be a bit different. And what I've done is tried to structure my week so that the beginning of the week is sort of more focused on what do we need to get done this week? What do I need to pay attention to? What are the things that are in my ball court that I need to move forward, and like which are the real, big priorities, or what's the one thing? Because sometimes if they're really big pieces of work, it might just be one thing. We start off our week posting what we call like a Monday minutes write up, which is basically the work that's in progress or shipped in the previous week. So that's actually really helpful for me to see from the team, because that can help make me go, oh, okay, we need to bring this into a design review, or I need to get a bit closer to this because this is not been in my sort of floated up to my altitude recently, and it seems important. So that's really helpful. And we also do like a product release review, so that's with all the people associated with a particular release. So those two items at the beginning of the week give me a lot of information to help me prioritize the rest of the week if there was things I wasn't aware of already. We have the meetings that I go to are usually with this sort of wider EPD leadership, or with my design leadership team, which I call DLT to just make it easier.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. nice. And we do like acronyms a little bit too much here, I would say.
Well, it's nice because it's like the SLT is like a on high, but then you're, no, DLT. That's cool.
It kind of sounds cool as well.
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah, so I found it really helpful to try and separate strategy from tactical type conversations. So we have like a meeting that's more like wandering and deep thought sort of type things in the bigger pieces on strategy. And we try to separate that from the very tactical things like we've got, promotion review season coming up. What stage are we at? What's the timeline for those things? Have we got people lined up for the next design all hands, which we call town halls, and our company-wide ones are called get-togethers because we like puns as well.
I love me a good pun.
Oh, good.
I really
yeah, there are. Yeah, you can do a lot of good puns with get for sure. So like separating those has been like really helpful, and then we have weekly design reviews and what else do I do? And then we have there's a number of like leadership, so meeting with the product leadership team, meeting with we have another funny acronym called PERMLT, which is our product engineering, revenue, and marketing.
That's a lot.
I should probably stop because y'all start to bore everyone. But yeah, there's a few of those. So my, I guess like ultimately my time is split between, product outcomes, because that's kind of what we're all here for. Like, what are we happy with? What's shipping? Is it where it needs to be? Have we hit the success criteria? What are we learning from it as that goes out? What's the next phase? So a lot of it is, that's a big chunk of any design leader's time, really. And same goes for me. And then the other part is are the practices and processes that facilitate those outcomes working for us? Do we need to adapt those or change? And we have weekly opportunities to discuss that, and then we also have quarterly, longer sessions to really go deep on those areas and, sort of retrospective them, explore what we might need to change. And then the other area is culture, because everything is sort of built on, on top of that, and you can't necessarily rule or govern culture in quite the same way. It's you need to cultivate it. It's kind of in the name, right? And so are we, like I said earlier, are we celebrating the behavior we want to see more of? Are we creating the space for ideas to sort of blossom? We like really generative and curious designers, so we want to see more of that behavior or attract more of that type of people. So how are we showcasing that when we do our design town halls and things like that? So that's another really important part of my time. So my day or week will be, switching between those different areas of focuses at different sort of levels of altitude. That's the best way that I can describe it. I hope that made some sense.
It's
a lot. How do you stop the work from spilling over into your personal life?
So I've sometimes I haven't, if I'm really honest. So I don't think I was never someone that was like, oh, I need to have work-life balance because work is my passion. But I think work can be work that you do that your employer wants you to do, and work can be work that you want to do and see happen in the world. It can be side projects or things that you want to get better at, right? So, but yes, I think there's been times where it's been really tough in this job where I've realized that it's important for for other things to make me feel fulfilled other than my job. Certainly we've had really difficult times. Obviously, pandemic was difficult for the whole world, basically. And I mean, I was actually very lucky that we were working in a company that was already remote. So we already had a lot of the practices and systems that set us up for that. But you suddenly didn't have any offsites or see anyone, right? And then we had with the economic crisis, like a year or two ago, like I had to lay people off. That was like one of the worst experiences that I've had in this role. It was one of the most awful things that I've had to do, but obviously not as awful as the people on the other side of that. So those moments have made me realize that I do need that space. And so I have, and I've also realized that you need to sort of rejuvenate outside of work so that you can be your best self at work. And sometimes, yeah, it can be on like some sort of nerdy coding or artistic design project and still be like adjacent to the work, but it doesn't feel like work because you're not being told to do it. But yeah, things like exercise. It turns out the doctors are right. you should like go outside and stuff, which particularly important as someone that lives in New York when it's actually sunny right now, which is nice, but it's not, this time of year it's not the best weather, and people get affected by that. So yeah, I think finding fulfillment from other things and other hobbies. I also like reading. I usually tend to have like a couple of books on the go, like a fictional book, and then I usually have something that's non-fiction. But I usually I don't always pick something that's like really directly about work. I try and pick things that give me a different perspective on something I might be experiencing at work, and I always like that because it's another way of like kind of fueling some creativity or looking at a problem from through different eyes. So I think, yeah, TLDR.
Way past that now.
Just realizing that, you're going to turn up better to work and enjoy it more if you've gotten energy from somewhere else. And then that's really important when you do go through difficult times at work, is to have something that gets you through that. So yeah, balance is important, turns out.
Yeah. I'm hibernating right now in New York also. I'm a little upbeat, and it's just there's snow on the ground for
Must be so pretty though.
It is, but it's so cold.
Yeah.
There's like, all right, one day I'll wake back up. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't like it when I can't feel my face. That's when I'm like, nope.
Yeah, the cold that hurts is not fun.
Not fun.
What are some of your favorite books that you're either reading now or any you can recommend?
Yeah. So I always recommend Thinking in Systems by Donella Meadows. I spent a lot of time in design systems. This book is not about that. That's about actual like environmental systems and world systems. But I think it's a great book to read whatever you work on, because it helps you. It will, just to warn you, it will make you see systems everywhere. Yeah. But I kind of like it. Because they are everywhere. So, but I think it helped me think about management and leadership differently, as well as like running projects and actual working on design systems. So I definitely usually recommend that one. On the more like design side, I think this did the rounds quite a few years ago now, but Creativity Inc. was just like really delightful and exciting and inspiring to read. Maybe at a level that is hard to aspire to for many companies, but I still really enjoyed that. And for some reason, a couple of people were reading that recently, so we were just talking about it.
Oh, cool.
At the moment, I've got the book right here, actually. I'm reading The Timeless Way of Building by Christopher Alexander, and It's a bit of a slog, but it's almost like meditative. It's going to probably take me a little while. I don't know that I haven't really been able to read it in one go. I've been audiobooking it actually more so than like flipping through the book. But Randy Hunt at C used to give that book to all the designers that worked there, and somehow I learned about this and and I was like, hey, I didn't get that book. And he was like, oh, sorry. So in the front of the book, he was like, sorry, I didn't realize you got it.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, that's been really interesting to read. And I was working on a design strategy at work, and it was just like giving me like a different sort of way of thinking about things. And yeah, and then I could go on about sci-fi books. So you probably want to start.
I love sci-fi. I have a problem.
Okay, we could probably have another podcast about that.
Yeah. If you, I would love a list if you have a list.
I do. I have a outdated list on my website that I really don't look at it. It needs updating.
I'm writing all this down with my little pencil on my little notepad.
Oh wow, nice. But I'll give you a couple of my favorites. So I think 7 Eves is my favorite one. I'm blanking on who the author is, but I think if you look that up, you'll find it.
7 Eves. Neil Stephenson.
Neil Stephenson. I was like, Nielsen? No, that's not it. Yeah, Neil Stephenson. I am quite bad with names of
It's totally fine. Me too.
everyone. And then I think not quite sci-fi, but I think in that sort of realm is The Rise and Fall of the Dodo.
Yeah, that was just suggested to me the other day, and I have them on another list.
It's a time travel book, but how time travel happens is very, very different, and I really enjoyed that.
Oh yeah.
I'll give you one more.
My language.
I think this one is really important. I don't know if I need to. Oh yeah, I'm reading another book by her. But have you heard of the Broken Earth trilogy? It's more like
No.
It's more like fantasy than sci-fi, but I feel like it's got some kind of magical realism, Afrofuturism type vibes, and that is by, because I'm reading another one of her books, N.K. Jemisin. Yeah, I wasn't sure about fantasy, and it took me like a minute to get into it, but I read all 3 books in a row. It's a trilogy. And they're not that short. And I almost felt like I felt like a bit lost after I finished it.
That's what it is for me. Is it takes me out of the hibernation. You know, it like brings you somewhere else, and you're like, oh no, it could be worse, different, and so much worse. This is cool. So then I'm like back.
Yeah, I think it's also good for that like work-life balance stuff we were talking about earlier. I find it really helps me switching off my work brain. And not always, but it will work more often than not. And so like it's another like kind of ritual that I think can be really helpful. Or like reading on an airplane instead of watching a movie, which my friends will laugh at me for, because I do watch a lot of shitty movies on. Oh, sorry, I don't know if that is. So you have to find that.
Please do not feel like you have to time for yourself at all.
Yeah, I really like watching. If I'm not working and I need to turn my brain off, then I'll watch some terrible like rom-com or something like that.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, you have to decompress in some way, like decompress your brain a little bit. Let it. There's and I guess like some of these questions are like very personal to me because I am an individual contributor right now, but I ran an agency, and I'm like, who am I? So personally, I'm asking you this. So going from individual contributor to a leader, it seems
difficult because you're contributing to the work, you're making the work, but then as a leader, you're typically outside of the work and reviewing it. So how is there any like advice that you would give to someone that's looking to transition into that leadership role?
Yeah, so I think everyone's got sort of different paths and different talents and things that work for them. But what I try and do, because I think that this is what helped me, is try and give people some experiences in leadership before they fully officially step into that role. So that could be mentoring. It could be like someone on a team, or it could be like you have an intern, for example. That was something that I did at Etsy and GitHub, and that helped give me like a sense of what it's like to help people know where everything is and think from a learner's mindset, and how to give feedback in a way that's not like in the group setting, but like more direct feedback and getting in the like design file with them, and realizing that part of it is also the soft skills, right? So that I think that like exposing people to elements of what it is like to be in a leadership role, assuming that you also, leadership and management are not the same thing, but they're both like important skills to have, is like leading through others, guiding others, giving feedback. So even if you're not going into management, like those sorts of skills are important. I think leading a project where there's multiple contributors to that, and having someone in that lead role and giving them that responsibility and accountability, I think you need to make it safe for them to make some mistakes. I think people work through something in fear of making mistakes. They don't, or repercussions on those mistakes. They don't do the best work. All work is about making trade-offs and taking some level of risk. So the way that my former boss used to say it, and I like using this analogy, is like you need to give someone slightly bigger shoes to fill than what they fill already. Mm-hmm. And so you've got to put some trust in them and space to grow, really. So I think if you're an IC looking to get into leadership, do you have any of those opportunities that let you stretch like in front of you already that you can just do? Or like what can you talk about with your current manager to say, hey, I'd like these opportunities, how about this one, so that you can get that permission or their help if they need to help create those opportunities. I think also like talking to a lot of other people in management roles so that you can learn, because everyone's got a different path, like I said, a different perspective. And I think that's really important when you step into management for the first time, is having that community and other people that you can lean on that will have strengths that you might not have. And I bet that there's strengths that you bring to the table too. So I think that's also really important. That's something that I found really valuable, and I've tried to keep and create in my team, is like making sure we have that management community and space to talk together as people managers. And then, there's lots of good books and podcasts to listen to with advice. There's one book that I do find myself recommending to a lot of people, especially people who struggle with confrontation, which is sometimes a part of leadership. There's a book called, again, I can't remember the author because I'm a terrible passer. The book's called Crucial Conversations. I will say that some of the examples are a little outdated and old-fashioned in places and could be a little bit more diverse, shall we say. But I think the principles in the book are really valuable and helpful. And when I hit a moment where I was struggling with making that move, I found reading that book and a couple of others like really helpful, because I don't naturally run towards like office politics. I don't love it. But I realized that I was getting in my own way, and that actually I needed to just learn how to communicate in a different style with people that were, sideways and upwards to me in the organization, and that wasn't compromising my values. It needed to figure out how it worked for me, but like it wasn't compromising my values. I was helping like further my work or make things that I thought were important happen. So I do recommend that book if that's something that you struggle with. And I think even if you don't mind confrontation so much, I think people sometimes get a little bit of culture shock or surprise when they move into leadership and find themselves like in conversations with exec level people and not just their peers. So yeah, I think that can be helpful.
Oh, that's so cool. I feel like I have so many things to read. I'm very excited.
Sorry, there's homework after this.
This is our. I feel like Jess and I are in different roles. I see, and Jess is a design leader in her org. I'm like a super IC. I don't know,
That sounds way cooler than a design leader. I would. Just like, do you like have a cape and stuff?
Yeah. No, but that's it's like a senior staff. I don't know. It's just a lot of expectations. It's interesting. But yeah, there's a lot to learn that no one teaches you. You just have to learn. So I feel like that's what we're doing with this podcast. So we're talking to people that really inspire us and have insights that how could you know these things until you experience them or talk to people that have experienced them. And I think we're like cultural or design industry anthropologists. Like we're like uncovering.
It's been a really fun way to meet folks like yourself and
that too.
Get educated simultaneously.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious what Jess things that you found helpful. But yeah, I think you're right. It is ultimately a lot of learn by doing experience. But if you can get coaches and mentors and arm yourself with information, that will give you a bit of a step up.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, the community part, to your point, was so huge for me too. Just having like a community of other design managers and creative leaders, a safe space where I could, we could all bring our issues together and talk about them. And it was also comforting to know that I wasn't going through certain things. Like other people were experiencing the same challenges. It wasn't just me. So having that space and community was super helpful for me too. In addition to the books and the resources, but trial by fire, in addition to all of that other stuff, is really the way. And there's nothing.
That's my favorite.
A good dose of fitness mode kick you in the butt and accelerate your learning curve.
Just jump in the deep end.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, this has been super helpful. I feel like I've already learned so much. I'm excited.
I know. It's so great spending time with you.
This is lovely. It feels just like a really nice conversation. I'm like, when's the next one?